The Formula Renault Eurocup, in its 50th anniversary season, is here at Spa-Francorchamps this weekend as part of the support package for the Total 24 Hours of Spa. And on a wet road, race one is coming up in the next few moments' time. The last race was for Lamborghini Super Trofeo cars, in which it started damp, dried a bit, and then the heavens opened and it became very wet indeed. So it is a wet track that the drivers have to cope with, but the rain has eased, possibly even stopped actually, so possibly it will dry out towards the end. But looking down onto the grid, it's wet tyres, wet hand-cooked tyres for everybody for this race. That's 30 minutes plus the regulation lap at the end. Now, this is David Addison trackside. Down on the grid, ready to talk to people involved, is Gemma Scott.
Louis, you're here as part of the 24-hour race, of course, with Porsche this weekend, but you know exactly what it's like for these boys who are sitting behind us right now in the Renaults. You raced here back in 2015, vice-champion in this particular championship. What's it like at Spa in these cars?
Spa is always beautiful in Formula Renault. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It's so fast, always flat out. Now it's raining, so it'll be a tough race for them, but I'm sure they will enjoy it.
Thank you very much, and of course, a superb championship on the ladder to Formula One.
Yeah, Super Championship helped me a lot. I mean, I can say a big thanks to Renault for my whole career. It's a super challenge also with the X World Series, and really good luck to all of them, and push hard. Thank
you very much, Louis.
Thank you.
Louis Delatraz, second-generation racer. His father, Jean-Denis Delatraz, winner of the Spa 24 Hours, in fact. And Louis Delatraz is here, as you just heard, as part of the Porsche assault. It's a big Porsche assault for the 24 Hours, but also has been racing this year in Formula 2 and was the SRO Esports champion in lockdown. And his CV goes on and on and on. Victor Martins, number 92, is the man who lines up on pole position. He's also the championship leader, with second in the championship, Kyle Collett, starting way back on the grid. 11th is where you find Kyle Collett. Third in the championship is the man that's last on the grid after a grid drop penalty, David Vidales. Franco Colapinto is fourth. He lines up third on the grid. Alex Quinn fifth, and he's fourth on the grid. And Lorenzo Colombo is sixth in the championship, and he is missing from the race altogether. And we wish him well. Lorenzo Colombo has been suffering this last week with pretty serious nosebleeds. And has been to a doctor about it and has been advised not to race this weekend, just for fear of adding any extra pressure on the sinuses. So Lorenzo Colombo is not going to be racing, and the field in the meantime gets away. Let's look at the grid. They're all in identical cars, run by different teams, and Victor Martins, the championship leader, is the man that starts on pole position, with Hugo de Wilde, the Belgian driver, with him at the front. Franco Colapinto has had a race win this year. He starts third alongside Alex Quinn, ahead of Paul Aron, and then Amaury Cordial, who lines up next. Kaz Havercourt starts seventh. Gregoire Saucy alongside him, ahead of Hadrian David, and then Richard de Geras. 11th on the grid is the aforementioned Kyle Collett, the main opposition to Victor Martins in the championship, ahead of Tijmen van der Helm, who is 12th, William Alatalo 13th, and Petr Potacek 14th on the grid. 15th is Laszlo Toth, Nicola Marinangeli 16th in the sister Bitec car, and David Vidales, after a grid drop, put to the back of the grid. I have to confess, we've not been told why he's been given the grid drop, so it could well be all to do with track limits that were being looked at the end of the session, but I'm afraid that we haven't been blessed with the information for the penalty. The grid issued quite late before the race, and not an opportunity to investigate further. So as the cars head downhill, it is going to be Victor Martins for pole position. He has, by dint of being on pole position for both races this weekend, taken 9 pole positions this season, which is equaling the record set by Scott Speed and by Sacha Fenestrat. Scott Speed did it in 04, Sacha Fenestrat back in 2017. If you take the pole positions he got last year in the championship, then we reckon that Victor Martins has had more poles than anybody else since it became a single make category. Formula Renault initially was multi-chassis, but since it became a single mark, single-seater series, that's probably, if you add the 2 years together, more than anybody else has ever had. All of these cars are Tatchus chassis. They have 1800cc turbocharged Renault engines, and we have had, what, 4 different winners this year. 2 wins to Kyle Collett, 1 to Franco Colapinto, 2 wins to the man at the back, David Vidales, and it's now 5 wins for the man on pole position, Victor Martins. And as the cars come through the bus stop, They will shortly slot into place on the grid. And 30 minutes plus the regulation lap will then be good to go. So there is Victor Martins. He knows exactly what he's doing in these cars. He raced them here last year. Got to say, actually, as we are at 2:30 local time, it has gone very, very gloomy all of a sudden, and that makes me slightly fearful that more rain is on its way. However, let us see how this next half an hour pans out. Tamas Zetner, the race director, will keep an eye to the conditions should they change. The stewarding panel with him, headed by the experienced British official Steve Stringwell, will be there to adjudicate should the need arise over the course of what we hope is going to be a good race, because Formula Renault round here, with that ability to slipstream up towards Les Combes, normally does give drama. The grid is formed. Everybody then ready for 30 minutes plus 1 lap of racing as the lights go out very quickly indeed. Who makes the best start? Good getaway by from the second row, Franco Colapinto, who jumps around the outside then of Victor Martins. Really good getaway by Colapinto, and he leads now into La Source for the first time. Around the outside line goes Hugo de Wilde. He's the one stage left off the runoff area. He'll get back on again, but how many places will he lose? Well, he rejoins pretty much where he was, in other words, alongside Victor Martins. But Colapinto is away like a scalded cat, and he's got the best of the visibility down through the spray, down towards Eau Rouge for the first time. They make the run up the hill, out wide there. Further back in the pack goes Alex Quinn, the black and white Arden car of the British driver. In the dry, your top speed around here is 253 kilometres an hour. But Franco Colapinto, third in qualifying, leads the way. Victor Martins trying to bring the gap down to him. Third there, Hugo de Wilde. Fourth is Alex Quinn. Fifth is just about everybody else as they turn through, with Cas Havercourt, number 12, ahead at the moment of Amaury Cordeel. Do they all negotiate the Les Combes sequence safely? They do. Keep an eye to number 1, the black and yellow car with the green mirrors of Caio Collet, because he is desperate to make up places after a really daft qualifying this morning. Coming down through Bruxelles, heading towards Speaker's Corner, the left-hander. Track limits has been a feature of every category, of every session, all over the weekend, and there the rain is falling again. So yeah, the weather is worsening. You can see, and it seemed to start at that part of the circuit earlier on in the day as well for the previous GT-type race, as they come now down towards the left-hander at Pau. There's a look to the inside there by William Alatalo, trying to make up places. Is he going to be able to do it? Not there, I don't think. But up front, Franco Colapinto, it is leading the way. Victor Martins second. And whereas on the start and finish line, the F1 pits, it looks like it's barely spitting, it is clearly heavy rain out at the back part of the circuit. So this will be a real test of the drivers now. Ultimately, it's down to your right foot, isn't it? But the officials can intervene, of course, if it becomes really, really awkward. David Vinales is another one trying to make progress. There he is, number 32. He's alongside his teammate, and they touch. The two JD Motorsport cars getting themselves together up the inside line there. Tries to go. David Vinales out wide goes Caio Collet over the curbs. And the trouble is doing that on some of the runoff bits, you find even more puddles, so you lose traction. Plus the car's unsettled by rattling over the concrete curbing. Tijmen van der Helm goes through in number 73, the Dutch driver, but the race leaders come up towards the end of the opening lap of the race into the bus stop chicane, and nose to tail the top two then. Victor Martins very clearly going after the race leader as they tiptoe up now towards the line, and the rain has joined us over here as well. So end of the lap, the road is getting wetter all the while. Past the pits, down towards La Source. Even though the rain is falling, they're still going, look for the wetter lines just to make sure the tyres last the distance. There goes Caio Collet, who is where 7th up from 11th, so not a bad first lap actually that by him. And David Vidal is up from the back of the grid, making a bit of progress too. However, Paul Aron, 5th, he was on the grid, he's last at the moment, and he's into the pit lane. Replay of the start as the cars accelerate up through the gears, up towards La Source. Have a look at David Vidales at the back of the grid, because he seemed to be very distant going into the corner, possibly a deliberate ploy to wait to see what kicked off ahead of him. But what did kick off was Hugo de Wilde running out wide, but he's in 3rd place at the moment, having recovered. Replay of the cars plunging downhill. Victor Martins just being able to maintain 2nd place to go after the leader now. Right, there they are. Colapinto up front looking for a 2nd win of the season. It was a great start, Whereas Victor Martin's main aim here, of course, is to keep outscoring Caio Collet. Number 1, the Brazilian driver Caio Collet, trying to make progress as the cars now come downhill once again. Now what about Hugo de Wilder's chances? He's in 3rd spot, trying to catch the battle for the race lead, but also keep Alex Quinn behind him as they now turn out of Pouhon. And there you can see the problems they've got. The visibility is virtually non-existent, sitting in the spray. You've got the rain falling, still making the track conditions pretty unpleasant. You've got the spray making visibility non-existent, so you are totally dependent on that flashing rear light in the car ahead to really know where you're going. And that's another reason why, if you are going to do any overtaking, boy, you've got to be brave, partly to catch and to have the trust in the driver ahead of you, but also you've got to go offline where it's even more slippery to make the pass. There's an incident involving Paul Aron on that first lap. It was at turn 10, so that's Pouhon, and it's under investigation. So Steve Stringwell and his team will have a look at the evidence and see whether Paul Aron was on his own, who was involved, whose fault it might have been. Make a call from there. Colapinto leading, Martin 2nd, De Wilder 3rd. If the Belgian driver can hang on to 3rd place, or even better, it will be a really good result. Home circuit. And Hugo de Wilder we've not yet had on the podium all season. He was a race winner last year, in fact the first race for these cars at Monza he won, and never went as well since. Franco Colapinto leads the way. Victor Martins is 7/10 of a second back, and Martins there pulls out, has a look, pulls back in again. But the French driver, the former gymnastics champion there in his youth, he is the quickest man on the circuit. He's brought the gap down, he's done the fastest lap of the race now. So through they turn once more. Down through a Rouge, and Colapinto hangs on to that advantage, but is it enough? Is the spray alone enough to deter Victor Martins, or will Colapinto have to up his pace? Hugo de Wilder is the man in 3rd, ahead of Alex Quinn 4th. Cas Havercourt is 5th, and Amaury Cordial 6th. Paul Aron, by the way, still in the pit, so the damage sustained enough to put him out of the race. Out of Les Combes. There, Franco Colapinto coping well with the conditions, and Victor Martins, you see the FFSA livery on the side of the flanks of the car, part of its promotion of young drivers, the French Motorsport Academy. Colapinto, the Argentine, fights the car through Bruxelles. He drives for MP Motorsport, the Dutch team. Victor Martins for the French ART Grand Prix squad as they run down the hill once again here. Turning their way into Pouhon. Remember here, track conditions at their nastiest. And that big moment for Martins. He catches the puddle, aquaplanes briefly, and the car flicked out to the right. He was able to control it, catch it, but the gap widens as a result. And there, even the championship leader is not immune, as the conditions can turn so horrible. Victor Martins tiptoes his way through the pith path, trying to regroup, not let it phase him. But Franco Colapinto getting away up front now. 3rd place, Hugo de Wilder. The gap has widened between those two as well. So there is Victor Martins. Goes through in 2nd spot, 7/10 of a second adrift at the start of the lap, but much further now because of that big wobble going through Pouhon. Down now into the bus stop they come. Turn into the right, turn into the left, and then up towards the timing line once more. As the leaders go by, Colapinto it is up front, and the margin has really increased as predicted, 1.6 seconds. Hugo de Wilder there, I think he's just going for points right now. But Alex Quinn, the young British driver, who is much underrated, Alex, very quick in both single-seaters and in GT4 cars over the years. He's 4th, and his last lap was not far off de Wilder. In fact, he was quicker. We're talking hundredths, but he's going nicely, trying to bring down that gap. Behind him, you've got Cas Havercourt, then Amaury Cordial. Caio Collet is still in 7th place and has got a bit stuck there. He's not making further progress. That's Amaury Cordial you were looking at. This is the leader, Franco Colapinto. And through the spray he comes. One of the big factors that's going to concern officials over the weekend is the spray hanging in the air becoming a fog, and marshals' posts not being able to see one to the other. Through there goes 92 then, Victor Martins. He's hanging on to that second place. Bang for the point. He does not need to be a hero in these conditions. He's outscoring Caio Collet. Yes, he'd like another win. He's had 5 of them, but bang for points where possible. Franco Colapinto, 4th in the championship. He's the man that leads the race at the moment. So there is the leader. Franco Colapinto presses on, coming now out of Pouan. And the gap that he's got looks sufficient now over Victor Martins. Not really to have to worry too much about this. Franco Colapinto, very quick carter, came into the Spanish Formula 4 Championship that he dominated last year, won that quite convincingly with 11 race wins. So he did a bit of Formula Renault Eurocup with Fernando Alonso's team, and then did the Toyota Racing Series in the winter months as well. But Colapinto, perhaps we've not really seen the best of. Won the opening round and never quite hooked it up after that. But here, looking really strong, and so much of it down to that demon start, wasn't it? So there's the race leader, powering on up towards the exit of Blanchimont, wide over the curve yet again. Goes there behind him, Victor Martins. So Victor now brakes for the bus stop, out of which the other side, with 1/3 of the race now gone, comes Franco Colapinto. Half an hour is still a long race. You do get bags of track time, though, in Formula Renault Eurocup. It's great for young drivers because you have the unofficial tests, the official tests, then qualifying, then 2 long races, relatively long races, half an hour plus a lap. So it does give a good chunk of track time over a weekend. And the way the calendar has worked out this year, because of COVID, because of the change of dates, pretty much all the weekends are back-to-back, so you get a lot of mileage crammed in. It's hard work for the teams, yes, but you are in the car for a really intense period of time over the period of about 10 days. Franco Colapinto's lead is coming down. Victor Martins has done the fastest lap of the race. The gap now is 9/10 of a second. The rain is still falling, but Victor Martins has certainly not given up as he comes now up into Les Combes once again. Turns through the Les Combes sequence onto the power. Now goes Martins, paddles his way down to Bruxelles, but Colapinto clear in the race lead then. So the reigning Spanish F4 champion, emphasis on the reigning right now, leads through Bruxelles. Victor Martins there behind him last year. Victor, the runner-up in this championship, and the runner-up in the past in the French Formula 4 Championship as well. We've got a yellow flag on the graphic because of a safety car, because somebody has had an off, quite a serious one, and that's Rached de Geras looking at it. So number 21, Rached de Geras, at the top of Radion, and he has made a real mess of that, has he not? He's okay. You saw him get out of the car and run away, but I fear he's pinballed from one side to the other, and that is one seriously damaged Tatia's chassis that has stood up to the impact well. So we go safety car. Not surprising with the state of that, with the back of it very badly damaged indeed as it's clattered up against the barriers. So Rached de Geras out of the car, out of the race. Safety car deployed. See the Hankook tyre off the wheel rim in the ensuing accident. Can we see where it all started? Looking to the spray, it's coming up out of Radion. Bang! There it is in the barriers. So he's got it wrong through Eau Rouge, and it's finished at the top of the hill. So we don't really see it, but we see the outcome. But there is bit of car lying in the road. That needs retrieval as well. But the soggy marshals go and have a look for the driver, who is okay, just to make the point again. He's okay and out of the car. Rached de Geras, second generation competitor, dad ex-rally driver. So the car, I suspect, will need to be moved. There the recovery team arrive, and bits of debris also will need to be cleared up. The last thing you need is for the race cars to drive over any of that, puncture the tyres. You can see the rear wing ripped off, end plates, diffuser all gone. Marshals quickly trying to scrape as much as they can off the circuit. Recovery vehicle is here as well, so that'll be a quick lift to get that car out of harm's way. So the marshals picking up all the bits, putting those in a slightly undignified heap next to the car. Rached de Geras fled to the other side of the circuit, out of harm's way, but you can see as the rain falls just what the drivers are having to cope with here, and as ever, a big vote of thanks to the marshals, because in difficult conditions all round this weekend, they are doing a sterling job keeping the meeting on target. That barrier stood up to the impact very well. Here comes the field of cars then, past the incident zone. So Franco Colapinto's advantage, of course, now completely gone. Victor Martins will be on his tail, ready for the restart. Lots of weaving around going on as Colapinto then tries to maintain the tyre temperatures and the tyre pressures here. So swinging his way up into Les Combes with Victor Martins behind, and then Hugo de Wilde running in third place. Alex Quinn there, the Brit, the best of the rest, fourth, ahead of Cas Havercourt and Amaury Cordial. Havercourt, a quick word about, only his second event in these cars, debuted at Barcelona, and has done a really impressive job actually, adapting very quickly to these cars. 52 there is Nicola Marinangeli at the rear of the pack as he goes through. And there the recovery operation continues apace to try and get what's left of Rached de Geras' car off the circuit. So of course this all eats into the 30-minute time, but in terms of laps lost, it's not that many because it's a long lap anyway, and it's a slow pace even in the wet. But the rain, as you see, wouldn't be Spa without it, would it? Continues to fall here. And it's getting worse as well. So whether or not this becomes a concern for the race director, we must wait and see. Ultimately, they're on wet tyres, and one surefire way of coping with the conditions is with the use of your right foot. But if it becomes standing water and it's dangerous, then the race director may have to intervene. But for now, he's focusing on getting what's left of de Geras' car out of harm's way. It's taken a massive whack at the back, hasn't it? You see how the structure of the car, the driver's cell, has stood up to it, but anything extraneous ripped asunder in the impact. Rear bodywork there, side bodywork there, random bit, rear wing. And go almost enough to now build your own Formula Renault. A tyre goes onto the recovery vehicle. I'm not quite sure what the wheel is for that, but anyway, the tyre is there. So all the key components are there. What about the state of the barrier? The recovery team applies some force to see whether it wobbles, and there's a nod. Is that a nod of approval? And a red flag is being shown. Red flag, race stop. So the race has gone over the 50% of the time, but the race is suspended. Now, will it be restarted, or is that going to be the end? It says stopped, but it could be a race suspension. But because of the conditions, Tamas Shetner, the race director, has made the call to suspend the race. We now wait and see if the cars will be brought into the pit lane or to the grid, and we also await news as to a possible continuation. Race will not be resumed. So there you go, the race is brought to an end. And safety car into a red flag. Race will not be resumed. One is assuming because of the state of the conditions of the amount of water that's now fallen, standing water on the road. It was always feared it's going to be a wet weekend running this in October, but that said, we had a very wet weekend in July last year, so there's never a true pattern at Spa. But the race won't be resumed. Franco Colapinto then wins the race, and the drivers make their way to the Parc Fermé area. It might actually be barrier damage after all, because yes, you can see it is needing some pretty serious manpower behind it, and we understand from race control, drivers have been reporting to their teams that the conditions have made the circuit undrivable. So on safety grounds, the track conditions have mitigated against continuing the race, and therefore it is a red flag, and the race, as you see, will not be resumed. So whilst we try and find a winner, let's have a quick look at some of the highlights of half a race as it turned out to be. So it was a dry-ish road when they blasted away, and the cars accelerated off towards the first corner, down towards La Source, where it was a really good start. Franco Colapinto nipped round the outside of the opposition and put himself into the lead. It was a lead he was never to lose as the cars stormed downhill. Battles raged on further down the order, and as the track conditions started to change as well, there was one or two drivers like William Alatello exploring all of the scenery, but he ultimately ended up losing a place to David Vidales, his teammate coming through on the inside line. Victor Martins had been charging on behind the race leader, but had a bit of a wobble up at Pouin, cost himself some time as a consequence. And then we had this incident for Rached de Geras that brought out initially a safety car, but with the track conditions having rapidly deteriorated, there wasn't a great deal that the race director had as a choice other than, I'm afraid, to stop the race. So the race is stopped and won't be resumed. That means that Franco Colapinto becomes the victor. And you can see just how bad it has become. We are meant to be having GT4 cars out fairly shortly, but again, we shall await confirmation of the track conditions. I think the barriers repair work has just about been completed, but the drivers making their way out of the pit lane at the end of Formula Renault. But we ought to hear from our race winner. Franco Colapinto is the victor, and he's now with Gemma Scott.
Franco, you had a mega start. That was really super.
Yeah. It was a mega start, really. We are in two positions there. I had 0 wheel spin. And then the car was really good. I also was in front, and there was a lot of pride to the back. So, yeah, it was a bit easier to pull a little bit of a gap. But then the track was really, really tricky. There was a lot of aquaplaning everywhere. There was a lot of water everywhere in the track, in the curves, so it was quite tricky. But yeah, I'm really happy for this win. Thanks to the team for the mega show all weekend. We are much more competitive in these last rounds. So yeah, let's keep it up like this and let's go for another win tomorrow.
Super stuff. Thank you very much. Well done.
See you.
So good to hear from Franco Colapinto, his second win of the season, and he of course dominated on the track, but being able to take the race victory with that red flag coming out early. So to confirm the result, Franco Colapinto, the winner from Victor Martins second, Hugo de Wilde third, Alex Quinn bags fourth ahead of Kaz Havercourt with Amaury Cordeel, Caio Collet seventh ahead of Hadrian David, William Alatello ninth, and David Vidales in 10th place. 11th, Gregoire Saucy, Tymon van der Helm ahead of Petr Potacek, and they were the finishers at the end of a rather bruising race in the rain for the Formula Renault Eurocup. So race 2 tomorrow. We hope it's the full race. We hope it's better weather as well for the Formula Renault Eurocup drivers. But well done to Franco Colapinto for his second victory of the season. Victor Martins outscoring Caio Collet in the championship. And race 2 tomorrow will continue the story. From a wet Spa from David Addison for now. Goodbye.